There it says live.
What's up, world? Are we live?
We're live, but no one's on yet.
We've got exactly 0 watchers.
Alright, he says live. Cool. I see it's on there.
Oh, cool. I'm watching.
All right, we got 1 viewer.
Woo.
1 viewer. 2 viewers. 5 viewers.
Can I just look at the questions here?
Your
Look at your laptop. Just
Yeah.
put your laptop here.
Mark Macias says, "What's up, Zinger?"
What's up, Mark? How are you, brother?
Richard Lundy, "What's up, bruh?"
What's up?
Can you see? It'll pop
Yeah.
up all right here.
I just look. Okay, cool.
Yeah, you just look right there. I think.
Yeah. 30 people. Can you see the comments?
Yeah, it should
see
just be
the
streaming on
Yeah.
Oh, so I just read this, right? Huh?
Yeah, there's 35 people on right now.
Okay. What's up, people? Old School Mission Beach? What up, Sean Heil? No way. Classic. We're listening. I know I'm not too good at this stuff. Sorry, Richard. I'm getting it. I'm looking forward to seeing all the OGs at the SRH Fest too, Mark. That's going to be a good time. A little overdue, but I'm stoked that I'm going to have one good night getting everybody back together. Is KMK even on Sub Noize? Yeah, I mean, I guess start right there, going right to the point. The whole idea of getting Suburban Noize back together was just kind of like, obviously a lot of years had gone by, and I was left with kind of like a weird taste in my mouth after the whole thing, and I'd, you know, a lot of people in the Suburban Noize SRH world only know me as the SRH or Suburban Noize guy, and that is truly the biggest part of who I am as a person and what I grew up and what I did. But business-wise, obviously I've done a bunch of other things, from, you know, the art world and making movies to, you know, managing different bands and different businesses. But the way that that whole thing ended, you know, and it's just not about me and it's just not about the bands, but it just let, you know, so many people put so much time and effort and dedicated their lives to it, that the way it ended left a, you know, kind of a bad taste in my mouth and a lot of people's mouths. So the motivation for getting it back together was more to bring the movement together. Are we talking about putting out Kottonmouth Kings records and going to put out Kottonmouth Kings records? Yeah, Dustin and Richter want to do that, but it's, you know, we're really trying to like make it that like family like environment again, as far as like we're not, there's like no like official contracts or like sticking people into deals or things like that. We're like playing it very by ear. And you know, Dustin and Richter and Saint made a record that they put out a while ago, and you know, that was their last project, so they haven't recorded any new music. So, but yes, the answer to the question is yes, Suburban Noize and Kottonmouth Kings will put out the next record that Dustin and Richter do, and hopefully Saint's out of jail and he jumps on a couple tracks too. So the answer is yes. Sorry, long-winded way to say yes. What happened to X? To be honest, I really don't know where he's at, or what he's doing. He's had an open invitation to come sit with me anytime, face to face, and discuss the past, the present, what happened, but he's never taken me up on that. You know, a lot of time's gone by, and the way I look at it is, you know, it's the same thing that I told my friend who got divorced years and years ago. I was like, you can look at it 2 ways, right? You can remember the bad times towards the end that were nasty and horrible, or you can choose to reflect back on all the good times. And you know, there was a point in time where you know, Brad X was like a brother to me. I would have done anything for the dude. What happened at the end and his change as a personality, I don't know if it was You'd have to ask him what happened as far as why he changed so much as a human. But for me, I'd prefer to look back and celebrate the good years because we had a lot of good times together. You know, was I angry and pissed? And do I still harbor resentment toward the guy? For sure. But you know, I'm a grown up man, and you know, you got to move on in life, and it's you know, you'll just sit there killing yourself harboring resentment towards people for the rest of your life. What I'd like to see with Brad is I'd like to literally have him take me up on his offer and sit there face to face, man to man, and have a conversation with me. But he hasn't done that, so you know, I don't wish him any harm. I don't wish him any luck. I just don't really, you know. I still, you know, I talk to Anna every once in a while and wish him and his family the best, and but yeah, that's about it, really.
150 people.
These things are moving so fast I can barely read them.
Let me read some out to you.
All right, here we go.
I think you can scroll up and down too.
Gotcha. Any chance of Lou Dog and Bobby B coming together? I talked to Lou a couple years ago, or maybe it wasn't even that long, and I know other people that have talked to him. I never had an issue with Lou. Lou was always a cool guy. You know, towards the end, there was, you know, obviously a weird separation, but you know, Lou, you know, Lou's always been a solid guy. So, and then as far as Bobby goes, you know, Bobby has an open door invitation to come talk to me anytime. I think that the information that he works off sometimes is outdated and incorrect. And he could come talk to me man to man anytime. As far as those guys getting back together with the other guys in the band, I don't manage the Kottonmouth Kings. You know, I have a management company and I manage a lot of bands, but I don't manage the Kottonmouth Kings, and so that's up to those guys to make those kind of decisions, if they want to work together or not. I don't see it happening in the short term, though. What about Big B? Yeah, Big B and I have always been the same, close friends. He's one of the most solid guys you could ever meet. We've continued to work on projects together and be friends this whole time. So yeah, we're doing a new project that B's going to be announcing soon. I'm super pumped on it. It's like it's B is one of those artists that's always like evolved and transformed and done it with nothing but staying true to the artistic form and doing dope products. And he's done it again in this latest project that he's worked on for quite some time, years and years and years now. To me, it's the dopest project he's ever done, and I'm excited to bring it to the world, but I don't want to blow the announcement for him, so I'll let him bring it to the people. But yeah, we're working on a project that's going to be coming out in the next 3 to 4 months, but it's really dope music for sure. Can you sign Middle Class Casualties to Suburban Noize? That's a good idea, actually. Not even just signing them, but Steve, what's up, brother? You're a solid dude, keeping Pakalika's memory alive. We appreciate that. Would love for the Middle Class Casualty dudes to come down to SRH Fest and maybe bring on a band or do something. Pakalika's mom is actually going to be at SRH Fest, and she's going to bring on one of the bands. Her and I have stayed very close and in communication for all of these years, and I love her to death. And you know, I made a promise to her years and years ago that I would do my best to keep Pac's legacy alive and in the right way, and try to do it classy. And I hope I've lived up to that promise. But yeah, she's going to be down at SRH Fest. So for all of those people that miss Pakalika like I do, please come down and give her a hug. She's one of the nicest, coolest ladies ever. So just like her son. Subnoise tours for Canada. Actually, Madchild and Dizzy Wright are going to go out on tour in Canada pretty soon. So that's probably the closest thing you're going to see for a little bit. But that's a dope tour. We want a Head PE show. Head PE is playing at SRH Fest, so cruise on down. There's a lot of people asking me about Brad and asking me about Lou again, but I just answered that. But I guess I'll wait till the end till everybody kind of logs in. I don't mind talking about it again. It's no worries. Come on Replicon Radio and do a full interview. Thank you for the invite, and I'll try to. I'm really not one of those people that does a lot of these things. I've never really tried to be on the public side of things, or just tried to be in it a little bit. But it's an honor to even be asked, and honor to even think that people want to hear what I have to say. But I'd rather people focus on the music and the movement. But I felt doing this was important just because so many people over the years, there's been so many rumors and so much hearsay and so much stuff that's gone out there that I figured that I might as well come on here and answer any questions and tell the truth. Did Brad really sell off the rights to the Kottonmouth albums? Yes, that is true. Brad sold. Basically, what happened was when him and I's drama ended, I ended up with the company and 87% of the masters, or something like some number like that, doesn't matter. But Brad ended up with the Kottonmouth Kings records. That was where all that went, which was ridiculous. But he held on to them for however many years and just recently sold them last year. So he doesn't have any rights to the records anymore. I was the one that actually found out through a third party, and Richter and I have stayed friends through the whole thing, so I let Richter and a few people that had rights to them know. The good news is for those guys, for Richter and D-Lo, and whoever participated on those records, the company that bought them will pay out the royalties that are due to people. It's super ironic that I was accused of not paying out royalties, but everybody now knows that wasn't true, and I was the one that was paying them out the whole time. And then when Brad took them over, he didn't pay anybody any royalties, and then he ended up selling the masters to a third-party company. But the people that own them are legitimate business people, and they're paying out everybody and doing the right thing by people. So that's cool. Why Brad sold them, I don't know. You'd have to ask Brad. I don't know if it was a personal reason or a money reason, and to be honest, it's not my business. But it is true that he sold all the masters, which is to me a little bit ironic after all of the things that he said and did about me, all the stuff that he made up or things that he was portraying me to be. After all of that, he ended up selling the masters. So that was kind of nuts. But I'm happy for the people that are owed money on the records, because now they can get paid what they were due. Somebody just asked if I could release the full KMK discography on vinyl. Yeah, I don't own those records, so I can't release those records on vinyl. I like all the Cody Manson for Prezes. That's classic. Cody, you're doing a great job, and I've been watching what you're doing, man. It's keep it up. There's so many cool artists that have submitted for the SRH Fest and the contest. I wish I could put all of them on, and maybe somewhere down the line we can do a big show with all of them. But I do appreciate everybody's participation in it. So I've heard some cool music through the whole thing. And damn, you got a lot of friends, Cody. What brought it to the table? I don't know what. What happened to Just Cause? Oh, man. George, what up, homeboy? That's my homeboy George from San Diego. Much love, brother. One of my oldest friends. He knows the true meaning of for better or worse on the friendship level. We've been through it all together. Just Cause, I don't know what happened to him. Last thing I heard, he was in jail, and I don't think he was getting out anytime soon. Is Taxman coming back? I don't think so. Taxman is going to be at SRH Fest, and he's going to bring on Head PE. A lot of people probably know this, a lot of people don't, but Taxman and I have, he's like my brother. We've lived together since we were little kids, grew up surfing and skating and living in Southern California. And he still lives with me. We live together, and he's doing great. He healthy, surfs every day, ripping, still doing all his art stuff and still doing what he wants to do and living the Taxman lifestyle. I don't think at this point he's looking to get back on the road and go out there anymore. But you know, him and I still doing the same shit we were doing when we were 13 years old, surfing every day. What's up with Force 5 Records? Force 5 Records, they're really cool guys. Donnie and those guys, they're doing their thing. They were doing a record with Saint, and before Saint went away, him and I were connecting, and then Donnie and I started talking. Always been super respectful and cool guy, Donnie, and just said, hey, you want to do this record together? And you know, Saint and I have known each other for longer than I can even remember. So of course I said yes, and that's the story. So yeah, much respect. A lot of people in like the music business, they think like there's like some competition or something like that, and like I don't look at the music business like competition. Like there's friendly competition between everybody, right? But like the beefs and the people talking shit about each other, like to me, like music is art, right? So there's plenty enough room for this label, that label, plenty enough room for all the artists, plenty enough room for everybody, because it's just art, right? It's not a sport, it's not a competition, right? And it's all subjective. Like I might think that Black Flag is the greatest punk band of all time, and somebody else might think they suck, but that doesn't mean either of us are right. I'm right, of course, but no, joking aside, like it's subjective. So there's plenty of room for Force 5 Records, and you know, there's probably people in this chat right now that have a group of friends, and they're all making music, and you guys should start your own label. Like I was the same kid that a lot of these kids were. I was 19 years old. I didn't go to school for the music business. I didn't go to school for clothing. I didn't go to school. I just went out there and just started doing it, and through a lot of hard work and you know, learning the tough way sometimes and learning life lessons, I figured all this out for myself. So like literally when we started this whole thing, like, you know, I was living in like a tiny little shitty apartment in Mission Beach that was like a little skate, like punker crash pad. And, you know, we didn't have any investors. We didn't have any backing. We didn't have any of those things. And, you know, just through hard work and perseverance and putting in the time and effort, we built like this all these multiple companies and all the things that we're involved with. So, and I'm not trying to brag or anything like that, because that's not what it's about. I'm just trying to say, like, if I can do it, then anybody can do it. It just takes the willpower and putting in the work. That's what it's all about. Bring back Mower. I would love to. Those guys were fucking one of my favorite bands ever from San Diego. Mower, Sprung Monkey, the Mix Mob. Mix Mob's coming back for SRH Fest. Sprung Monkey, we wanted those guys to play the show, but I think they had a scheduling conflict. But those guys are some of San Diego's best musicians and some of the coolest dudes ever, as far as musicians go. Will products spin with Head PE at SRH Fest? I don't know. That's a good question. I would love to see that happen. Product is a fucking legend, and Head PE are legends. I know that all those guys are friendly and boys, and So I don't see why it couldn't happen. But obviously, product spinning with D-Loc and Richter now, and so I guess there's no reason why he couldn't put in double time. But it's a good question. Wow, a lot of old friends on here. Good to see all you boys. You, San Diego represent. Saigon and Slane. Saigon's out there doing his thing. Wish him nothing but the best. Slane, I actually talked to. We went back and forth yesterday, and we're actually gonna put out the original Slane record on vinyl, the one that we had to pull because there were samples on it. So that's going to be a really cool collector's item. And I do a lot of mixed martial arts and boxing and fighting and stuff. And I was telling Slane that basically the soundtrack in the little training area that we got is like Slane, Lacoca, and Madchild is going right now. That's like the ongoing themes back there. And Slane was telling me about his new record, and he sounds wholeheartedly super excited about it, saying it's the best music that he's ever done. So I'm supposed to link up and check it out soon. I'm excited about it. I found KMK and SRH through Metal Militia videos. That's cool. Was there a lot of... How do I slow this thing down?
Just scroll. I don't think we can slow it down.
Yeah, Cooley. There's a real San Diego OG, Kirk Westfall Cooley. He was back in the day. He saw the whole thing in the start. Part of the start, I should say. 1604 boys, what's up? Who are the top 3 artists you're into right now? Good question. Amigo the Devil is definitely... I listen to a lot of Amigo the Devil, and it's not hip-hop. It's like... People call it murder folk, but you should check it out. It's pretty cool shit. I love it. Eric Phillips, 3 extra large. I see a lot of that, and I apologize. People got to remember on the SRH thing, yes, we need to bring back some bigger sizes for the bigger homies, and I apologize. On the SRH thing, a lot of people, we purposely, SRH was a huge company, and we purposely pulled it back when the trends changed, because there was a bunch of things that were going on. One was one of the biggest selling brands in the No Fear chain, and they went bankrupt, and they stuck us for a lot of money, right? And when you're funding everything yourself and you're doing everything yourself, there was no investors or bank financing us. It was just me and my partner's money, and we were just 2 kids starting from Mission Beach trying to build this thing, right? So that was a big hit for us. The economy crashed, and that was a big hit for everybody. And the style has changed, you know what I mean? And it was all of a sudden it was hipsters and tight pants and all that kind of stuff. And I couldn't really make SRH tight pants, and it was just time to SRH never went away, but it was just time to wind it down a little bit. It was either wind it down or blow it out and sell out to Ross and Nordstrom's and shit like that. And it was we weren't gonna do that, and we weren't gonna make SRH skinny jeans and fucking go that whole route. So it was just let's just do it for the people that really want it, and we just put it up online. And for those of us that really wanted it and wanted to stick with that lifestyle, it was available and it was there, and it was rad to see that whole time because when the rad thing about SRH was when you saw somebody that was wearing it, even if you didn't know them, you knew you had some common connection with them, right? It was the logo brought people together, and as somebody who helped build that was one of the most rewarding things ever, was seeing people who would be dude, I met my best friend because we met each other wearing SRH clothes, or I met my wife, or I met my girlfriend, or a few people said ex-girlfriend. Sorry about that. But yeah, you know, that connection that the logo and the spade brought people together. It was that was a special thing, right? And so when it wasn't as sort of like available to still watch like that hardcore like bond stay was a very cool thing. And you know, now it's you know, we're slowly but surely bringing it back out. I'm not sure that you know, stores are starting to call a lot and want it, and you know, I understand like not everybody can go on the internet and order stuff, so there's one side of me that wants to put it out to stores like that, and there's another side of me that wants to just keep it really core and online, but you know, only time will tell. We talked to Judge D recently, got lots of material going. Good. Judge Daniel's a very talented dude. He should always be putting out music, for sure. Moondoggy! What's up, Moondoggy? That's one of the coolest old dudes around, Moondoggy. East County check-in. The Funk Junkies reunion. Yeah, I like that idea. Joe Soulman is still out there rocking DJ gigs everywhere and doing his thing. Love that guy. We travel the world with that dude and those guys, man. They're good people. Go buy some of those. It's crazy. I look back at some of the old like SRH flyers and the old SRH shows that we used to do way back in the day, because that's how we started doing this. And it would be like literally like Funk Junkies headlining. You would see like Sublime like way down on the bill, and like it was crazy. Like Funk Junkies were a huge band, like 311 and Sublime, and I think even like Pennywise played with them. But yeah, it was pretty classic. Cousin Ian, what's up, brother? Messy. Wow, a lot of OGs and family came up. Don't you guys got jobs, man? What are you doing on here watching me on Facebook? Classic. I like that. Thank you, Nick. He said he's about to retire his SRH jeans, the best he ever had. Appreciate that. We must have had them for some while because we haven't made them in a while, but we're going to bring some back for sure. Is anyone at Suburban Noize or SRH running D-Loc or Richter's Instagram page? No, those guys do that themselves. We don't run their Instagram pages. Yeah, the Diaz brothers used to wear SRH. The Diaz brothers are really cool guys. Some of my favorite fighters. They're heavy dudes for sure. But yeah, you know, way when the UFC first started, like, we were one of the first people. I mean, we sponsored Liddell, Jardine, the Diaz brothers. We sponsored a lot of people. And then, to me, it just kind of got a little ridiculous with some of the brands, like the Afflictions and the Tap Outs. Like, no disrespect to those guys, but, like, that just wasn't what I imagined SRH being at all. So it was like I stopped trying to, like, be a part of that scene for a while. And it's funny because... you know, I box, I suck at jiu-jitsu, but I do a little jiu-jitsu and do kickboxing. But like, so I love that whole thing, but it was just at that point, I didn't want to get lumped in with like Tap Out and that kind of stuff. And no disrespect to them, it's just not my vibe, if that makes any sense. Bring back some OG styles. I see that a lot, and we do. You know, I don't think that we've ever done anything but the OG style, so it's hard to figure out all the requests on the OG styles because we keep bringing them back. But if anybody has like a specific design that they want to see, I'm all ears, because it's all about making everybody in the family happy with the stuff. After Zoomies pulled SRH, I stopped getting there and bought all of their posters off the walls. They're in a better place now. That's pretty classic. Yeah, somebody said I remember getting SRH shirts at a smoke shop. Yeah, that's the crazy thing, right? Like, people gotta remember, like, you know, I'm old as dirt, right? So, we started SRH in 1991, and back then it wasn't it, like, we were the only action sports company or clothing company that was like, cool and open about our views on legalization and views on the plant. Now it's like now it's like a marketing ploy for companies. Like, you know, everybody is, you know, pro legalization. They use weed as like a marketing tool. But for us, like, back then, it was hard and it was adverse. Like, stores didn't want to carry you because you were the stoners wreaking havoc, or stores were, you know, looked at you, you know, sideways and didn't want to be involved with it, you know. And it's great to see how far we have come as a society, as far as like, you know, pot is legal in, you know, California and a ton of states, right? But when we first started, it was like we were the social pariahs, you know. It's a crazy thing to think, like, look at all of these people out there making money right now on weed being legal, and there's still people that are sitting in jail who got busted for weed years and years ago. It's like such a weird thing. Like, the guy who's sitting in jail right now, who is doing time for a plant, if he was doing the same thing now, would be considered a great entrepreneur, and people would be patting him on the back, and he would be looked at as like a forward thinker and an entrepreneur and all this. But because he was in the wrong time frame doing the same exact thing, he's ended up in jail. And I mean, I'm not trying to get all deep and heavy, but that's a pretty crazy one when you think about it, you know what I mean? And for all of the people out there that are, you know, this whole green rush that's going on, I think it's super important for people to not lose track of like who were the people on the front lines, like, that made it able to for them to make all this money on it, you know what I mean? So I don't know, just a little personal thing for me. I'm sure a lot of people feel the same way though. Tell us about the falling out with KMK. Have to be a little bit more specific, but it was, you know, it sucked. It was, you know, for me, it was one of those things that I'd been with the band for 15 years, and I stopped being their manager, and just resigned, and just wanted to, you know, be the guy that ran the record label. And you know, all hell broke loose, and everybody got sucked into it. And that was the sad thing for me, was like that the fan base and like the people who helped us get there, and the employees and the people that dedicated. I mean, there were people like Beth Chapin and Dan Vega and employees that were with us for years and years and years, that put their heart and soul into the company, and to watch it all just get blown up for, you know, for nothing. It was shitty for a lot of those people. Shitty for me. Shitty for the people that invested their lives. Shitty for the people that got it tattooed on them. You know what I mean? It was a shitty thing that it got drug into the public like that. And even though it wasn't me that made that decision to pull it into the public like that, I still am man enough to apologize to all the fans and the employees and the people that were part of it, because it wasn't fair to any of them. You know what I mean? I had to live it, and I had to be on the front line of it, and was the, you know, imagine working your whole life for something and to build something up, and like trying to put, you know, the fans and do the right thing by people and build up this whole environment of a family around and a lifestyle, and then all of a sudden, you know, in the course of a few months, all of a sudden people were, I mean, dude, I was getting fucking death threats from kids like I've never met before, and people are calling you a thief and all of this kind of thing, and you're like, I mean, it's a little disheartening, but I never got mad at any of them because I understood that people, you know, they wanted to believe their favorite artist, right? And clearly now that all the truth has come out and people have, you know, looked into what's really happened, et cetera, like, you know, I've gotten so many messages from people who are like, hey man, I said this about you and I'm super sorry, and you know, I take it all back, and I never really faulted anybody for it, you know what I mean? Did it bum me out at the time? Of course it did, right? Like I put my heart and soul into building SRH and Suburban Noize, but I never faulted anybody for it because I didn't feel like that was on them, you know what I mean? They were listening to their favorite artist at the time, so I understood that. Would I ever license fitness gear? That's funny. Probably not, but I appreciate the offer. People, need people. I love all the stoners out there because it started at 420, and I've talked about the Brad X thing twice, but I guess I'm gonna have to talk about it a third time. All good. I don't think I'm going to the Gathering of the Juggalos this year, but I wish all the Juggalo Nation a good time out there. Be safe, everybody. What's OPM up to? Johnny is doing well. He started a new business, and they're still playing select shows, and they're playing SRH Fest, and to me, OPM was always one of the most like underrated bands on Suburban Noize, because some of those records and some of those songs are just dope. So yeah, they're still doing their thing. Did Dirtball bail on Sub Noize? Yeah, I mean, I guess you could say that, right? He's another person that has an open invitation to talk anytime he wants. It was really a weird thing because I think I was the one that actually introduced everybody to Dirtball. So I was kind of the one that brought him into the fold at Suburban Noize. And then when all the stuff went down, him and Brad, you know, they made that video. You know, I got nothing bad to say about Dirtball. I think he's a sick rapper. I'd love to sit down with him and talk face to face. He's a smart enough guy where he probably doesn't believe the hype that Brad was telling him back in the day. But yeah, I don't know if it's I don't know what the reason is. You'd have to ask him, but I haven't talked to him in years and years and years. A lot of people are saying send me your hat. Probably don't want this one because it's got my dirty forehead on it, but they're available on SRH.com. That was a joke. Egos and KMK destroyed them in 05. You know, I'm bad with times, but there is a lot of truth in that statement, and whether it was ego or whatever. But I think everybody's got to remember those guys spent a lot of time. We all did, right? We all spent a lot of time together, and you know, it definitely spiraled out of control for a while. One of the back-breaking things for me was the Pakalika situation, and that was that actually caused a huge rift between Brad and I, just because, you know, I didn't agree at all with how that was treated or how that happened. You know, oddly enough, there was a lot of conversations about that, and Bobby probably doesn't even know this, or maybe he does by now, but that was one of the big rifts between Brad and I the whole time was, you know, what he did to Pac, I was 100% disagreed with and fought the whole way. Unfortunately, I found out after. And then with Bobby, you know, he was trying to do the same thing, and I was fighting with him about it. I never brought Bobby into those conversations. I think he kind of knew, but you know, Bobby's a very sensitive person, so I never brought him into any of those conversations. But it's ironic that Bobby still has sort of spite for me for whatever reason. I don't know. I'd love to find out and talk to him, but a lot of the problems that I had with Brad was back then was I was defending Bobby's position in the band. I've always been a person that, you know, a deal's a deal, and no matter how you feel about somebody, or if you know, change your perspective or change your mind or feel about them differently, you still live up to the agreement that you made with them. And a lot of people didn't share that opinion that I had, right? So that was an awkward time. So that statement is a little bit true, yes. Two Root update. I know they're playing shows. I talked to Robbie Rogers a while back, but I haven't talked to him lately. But yeah, those first two Root records were great. Mad Child has been great since I was a kid. Yeah, Mad Child lyrically is he's an incredible rapper. It amazes me the quality of material and the amount of material he's able to put out, and still out there rocking shows and still doing it. Yeah, he's very dope. Him and I have grown to be close friends over the past, I guess, decade. Chris Apple. There's a question, rebuilding the brand. What's the biggest thing you learned from the fallout? That's a good question. And I know I say this a lot, but and now other companies have knocked it off and use it as like a marketing slogan, but it's like, I've always said that SRH isn't a brand, it's a lifestyle. So like, part of the reason like I kept it alive this whole time is just because like it's part of like my DNA, right? It's part of who I am. So it was never there's no like marketing ploy, or like I'm not like I'm fortunate enough that I have other successful businesses. My dog's trying to steal the show. What's up, Angus? Come here. I have other successful businesses, and I do a lot of different things. So SRH, even though you know, it's a huge part of my legacy and a huge part of who I am, it's not what pays my bills. So it's nice to be able to live underneath that freedom and to make decisions regarding SRH without having financial worries tied to it. Let's just put it that way. Suburban Noize Soldiers with Garth and Underrated. Yeah, that would be dope. I've always thought about putting together another Suburban Noize Soldiers record. Some of those early records were super dope. And a lot of them aren't even available on Spotify or the DSPs, but those are some good old collector's editions. I'm still one of those guys that likes CDs. I don't know what it is, but I still like the touch and the feel, and skipping through tracks and having them displaced all over my car and making a big mess. But if anybody still owns some of those old school Suburban Noize Soldier CDs, definitely hang on to those things. They'll be collector's items, or maybe they are already. I don't know. Somebody said, oh, Chris said, that was sick seeing your pop swim from Alcatraz again. Thank you. Yeah, my dad is a legend. 77 years old. Just on the LA Times again for swimming Alcatraz. No wetsuit, no fins, no anything. the guy's the man for sure. In great shape, and a true testament to mind over matter. He's that guy. Sub Noize re-releases on vinyl. Yeah. I just mentioned before we're gonna put out Slane's original record, which is a collector's item. We're gonna put out the King Spade record on vinyl, and the company who bought the Kottonmouth masters from Brad, I've been talking to them, trying to convince them to put them out, just because I want them for my own collection. And you know, the people that bought the masters from Brad are cool people, but you know, for them it's business, right? So you know, if hopefully they see that that the fans want it and they'll put it out. They just did like some vinyl like greatest hits thing, I think, but to me that wasn't really the vibe. They should put out those classic Kottonmouth Kings records on it for sure. Another Lou Dog question. Yeah, I talked about Lou earlier. It's all good with me and him. He's doing well. Are King Spade putting out a new record anytime soon? I mean, I know that D-Loc and Richter are gonna work on music. You know, I know there's been a lot of conversations about, you know, should they call it King Spade or should they call it Kottonmouth Kings? I think that you know, the reality is both of those guys were in both bands, so they can call it whatever they want to. You know, and they're playing both. They're playing both bands' music. You know, I've seen a lot of fans fighting back and forth as far as like what it should be called, and you know, for me, I'm just stoked that people are having a good time going back to shows. It's bringing people back together, and sort of like making people move on from sort of like the negative way it ended years and years ago. So to me, I don't care what they call it. I'm just stoked they're doing it. And I hope everybody else feels the same. My dog's trying to steal the show. This is Angus Young. It's a ruthless killer dog. I have 3 dogs. One of them passed away recently. His name was Stevie Wonder, and he was a blind little guy that looked like this. This is Angus Young, named after AC/DC. And I have another one named Layla after Eric Clapton song. SRH was a movement before the music. Yeah, that's true. SRH was like I don't know about before the music, but in the early days, like we did shows with like, that's how we started. Like we were promoting like Pennywise and Offspring and 311, all those bands before they were like big bands. You know what I mean? This was years and years before I even met Brad. But hold on, I'll be right back. I'll show you some old school flyers. Wave them so they don't leave.
Still
I
here.
think you meant put the emoji. You can wave to people.
Oh, what emoji? Oh.
Coming back. So you... Oh. So yeah, a lot of people, is this thing on?
Yep.
Okay. A lot of people don't know about the early days of SRH because obviously, like,
Delay.
it was, what's that?
That's just a delay on
Gotcha.
on your screen.
It was pre-internet, right? So a lot of times things that happened before the internet was around don't get as much attention or credit as because you can't just Google search it. But like, check out some of these like old school SRH flyers, which like Pennywise, Offspring opening up to Pennywise, and Sublime playing a trade show party, and you know, here's an old Funk Junkies and Sugar Ray before Sugar Ray got ridiculously lame. The Vandals and the Ads. So we would throw like these shows with like Face to Face and Lagwagon. Here's a classic one: Cadillac Tramps, Shrinky Dinks, which was Sugar Ray, and Korn Opening Up. Classic. So for those, here's one: Sublime. We used to do Sublime like every was it Tuesday or Thursday night? It was 50-cent drafts, and it was free to get in. People get to see Sublime. But anyways, all this stuff was like pre-internet. This is a sick show. Vandals, Agent Orange, Lagwagon, Strung Out. But yeah, this there was like a whole scene in San Diego that, you know, SRH and all the boys, and it was like a special time in music history where it was still, you know, punk rock was on the West Coast was making a huge resurgence, but there was all these like eclectic bands like Sublime and that were like also part of the scene, and it was like it was a special time in history. And for those of us that survived it and those of us that lived through it, we have like a special bond knowing that we were all part of that, right? And like I said, it was really like before the internet, right? So like, you know, sure, I've posted a few things on social media and stuff like that, but like it's almost like to some people it didn't happen, which is fine for those of us that were there, right? 'Cause it did, and it was badass for sure. Can I get back the KMK Masters? I mean, I guess you could, you know what I mean? I could buy them back, but, you know, I haven't really thought about that too much. Why would Brad sell the Masters? You'd have to ask him that. I don't know. It could have been a financial reason, and I'm assuming that it was. Like I said, he's had an open invitation to sit down with me and have a face-to-face, man-to-man conversation for years and years and years, but he hasn't taken me up on that. Ultimately, I think that the Masters should have stayed with the band, and especially all the things that Brad said about whatever, I don't want to dig all that up, but all the things that Brad said, it's a little bit hypocritical that he sold them, but for the people that are due money from those Masters, I'm glad he sold them, because he wasn't paying anybody. Like, none of the artists or none of the people had gotten paid from those Masters, ironically, since I had them. You know, it's pretty ironic to think that, you know, Brad's thing was, you know, Zinger's a bad guy because he didn't pay out royalties, but yet I was paying out the royalties the whole time. And then it went on that when he had the Masters, he never paid anybody the royalties, and then he sold the records. I mean, this whole story is, the truth is stranger than fiction almost, but it all fucking happened. Yeah, you'd have to ask him. Yeah, somebody said call them Kottonmouth Kingspade. That's what I wrote on the SRH festival flyer, so I don't disagree with that. Disappointed with Lope and Richter. Seen them in May in Indiana, and they jet and didn't see and hang out like they used to. Yeah, I mean, you never know though, Dustin. Maybe they had to go somewhere, and you know, maybe they were burnt and tired. You know, so I believe that everybody should give everybody a little bit of the benefit of the doubt. You know, and obviously, I'm not being hypocritical saying that, because I try to live by those words, right? It's the Angus show now. Classic. How is Saint? Saint's locked up in jail, and jail sucks. I think he's healthy and looking forward to getting out, but he's not in the best circumstances. It sucks that he did a parole violation for marijuana, and that's what got him locked up. But yeah, he'll be out soon enough. And Saint's still Saint Dog. That kid has not changed in and since I met him, he still I love him to death, and he wears his heart on his sleeve. And I hope that this time around he stays out of jail, because he's got a lot to offer the world for sure. Can we get some unreleased music from Kottonmouth Kings or anybody else on the label? Yeah, I think, like, here's the plan with Suburban Noize, right? The first part of bringing it back together was to just sort of unite everybody and make, by everybody sort of like putting things in the past, and for everybody to come together to do things like SRH Fest and sort of work together again. I'm hoping that message spills into normal life and the fan base, right? Because it was always a bummer to watch people fight online about fucking what they thought to be true, right? Like, Zinger's this, or Brad's that, or D-Loke's this, or Richter. That's like nobody should have gotten brought into that. And again, I even though it wasn't me that did it, I apologize to everybody for it. But the idea now is like everybody's come together for the greater good, right? And everybody's having fun and having a good time doing it. And I think all of you and everybody out there seems to be enjoying it, right? So yeah, we're gonna put some music out from, we put out Head PE's record, and putting out Big B's, and Saints record's about to come out, and we put out Underrated and Garth's record, and we're putting out music from all of the acts that were the people that sort of like helped establish the label. And yeah, Carter Gibbs, sick. So putting all that is putting that out is really important. And then the next step after that, to add to it, I'm looking at all of their all these up and coming kids, right? There's got to be a next wave of Suburban Noize, right? And a group of kids who take the torch and take the mantle and take the independent spirit and what the SRH Suburban Noize lifestyle was built on, and run with it. You know what I mean? Like, I have a bunch of successful labels other than Suburban Noize now that I've built up over the years, and I'm proud of them. But it's time that Suburban Noize, the acts that help build it and the acts that that need exposure in the next round, it's important for them to carry that torch. And at this point, I don't know if it'll last a year or 10 years, or I hope it lasts forever. But as long as it's good music, good vibes, and people are enjoying it, I'll keep it going, right? So that's the vibe. My dog is going off. I love seeing some of these old school names. Carter Gibbs, Sheldon Miller, the old school OG SRH crew. That's fucking classic. Los Freddy's, happy birthday. Yeah, Dustin Anderson said, KMK and SRH wasn't just a movement, it was a lifestyle and a way of life. I hate greed and a snake trying to ruin it. Yeah, I agree. And I don't, but I think like it's time to like pivot away from like all of those conversations, right? And maybe, I don't know who you're referring to, I'm assuming it's Heck, maybe you think I am. But like, it's time to put the past in the past, you know what I mean? And I totally understand that people have questions, and that's why I'm here to answer any of them, because, I want people to move on, right? It's like people, there's been so much focus on the negative that it's time for us to just like move forward and enjoy this again, right? And remember, like, when you see the guy with the SRH logo, or you see the guy at the Big B show, or you see somebody at a Head P show, remember, you've got something in common with that guy. Your way of life and your outlook on things is probably extremely similar. And in times like these, it's important to bring people together, not divide them. You know, as much as I don't mind answering any question about anything on the past, you know what I mean? I'm hoping that a lot of the people that are on here will like help spread a message that's a little bit more positive and stop like there's no reason to infight about who was right or who was wrong. Like we're not gonna change anybody's mind at this point, you know what I mean? What's your thoughts on C Formula? I never met the dude, so I don't know. Seems like a good rapper. Little John and Pavones, what up? Down my boys down in Costa Rica surfing. How's my boxing going? Any plans to get in the ring? I spar all the time, but I just blew out 2 hamstrings surfing, so I've been a little bit injured. And last year I cut my ear off, so I've had a good run of injuries going. But yeah, I spar all the time. There's like an old guy league that I was gonna fight in, but due to these recent injuries, I have not been. But yeah, I fight every day for fun. What's up, Andy? Tell little Dylan I said hello. Any updates on SRH Fest? Yeah, right now we're just, I mean, everybody knows who's playing, right? Long Beach Dub All-Stars, which is legendary for them to be playing an OC on the beach like that. Head PE, who's from Huntington Beach, and I don't think they've played in Huntington Beach in probably a decade, so that's legendary in itself. Kottonmouth, OPM, Mix Mob, Tomorrow's Bad Siege, Chucky, and who was Mad Child. So it's a pretty deep and legendary lineup. Right now I'm trying to figure out who's going to introduce everybody and who's going to bring everybody up on stage. You know, the tickets are selling super fast, so I'm also trying to figure out if I expand it out venue-wise and make this venue bigger or just keep it as it is. I'd rather make it probably a little bit more intimate and have it be, you know, 2,000 to 3,000 people than try to have it be like 5,000. But I also don't want to limit people that want to go and see it. So, you know, that's really the only update. Other than there'll be some beautiful girls in a bikini contest and a lot of awesome bands, and that's about it. How did Brad become the voice of KMK? Did he just step in and take charge? So that's a good question. What you got to remember, when they first started, Brad wasn't even in the group. He was sort of like a producer, like mentor kind of guy. And then slowly but surely, Brad's role as a member of the band expanded over records. And Brad was in Humble Gods and Doggy Style, which were both legendary punk bands. So it wasn't like, you know, it was new to him. And back then, you know, Saint and D-Lo and Richter, they were Droms, they were young kids, right? So Brad did most of the talking for the band, and to his credit, he did an amazing job. He was a great voice for the band for a long, long time. You know, I always was a fan of his approach to it, and I look back at those times with a lot of fondness. But yeah, he was always kind of the guy that spoke in interviews. The one thing that always tripped me out was Brad always had a tendency to exaggerate, and he always had a tendency to kind of work around the truth a little bit, and I'm just not that kind of guy. But as much as I would try to be like, dude, you can't say that, he would just ignore me. So, you know, that was the one thing that him and I did not agree with. But fairness being fair, 80% of the time, I thought he did a good job being the voice of the band. You know what I mean? My only issue with it was every once in a while he would have like a detachment with the truth, right? Like, and somebody just chimed in. Did he really get stabbed in the neck? Like, that was one of his. No, he did get stabbed in the neck. And like, you got to imagine for me, right? Like when all that went down, right? He goes online and tells everybody he got stabbed in the neck, and like, people were a part of this movement and people really cared, right? So all of a sudden my phone's blowing up and people are like, oh my God, is Brad okay? And, with genuine concern, and then I'm getting calls from like news outlets like TMZ and shit. This guy really gets stabbed, and I'm like, and for me, like I pride myself on not being somebody that bullshits. Like, it was really awkward for me, you know what I mean? Because I would just choose not to talk to people because I didn't want to. I couldn't bullshit them, you know what I mean? So yes, things like that were definitely, yeah. I don't know why he would do things like that, but he did. You have to ask him. But again, like I'm not here to make this a bash Brad session, because I could go on forever, and I'm not trying to air other people's dirty laundry, and I'm trying to be the bigger man about it, right? Because I remember years and years and years of having good times with the guy, right? So as much as I can't stand what he did, and as much as I have my own issues with him that I would love to talk with him about face to face, it's not my intent to sit on here and just air all his dirty laundry. Is D-Loc involved in the business of SRH or Suburban Noize? Not to stay on negative, but in recent times he has publicly drug issues and had done bad business in public with Twisted, M&E, and Kingmaker, just that we know of. Just don't want to see his actions impact a positive thing. I don't know what happened with Loc and the Twisted thing, and Loc and the Kingmaker thing. No, the answer is he's not involved in the business side of SRH or Suburban Noize. And Loc and I have only really reconnected over the last year to 18 months, or however long it's been. But I can say this, is I think some of the stuff that he got blamed for really wasn't his fault, but I understand why people pointed the finger at him or got angry with him, right? Because there was a little bit of inconsistencies with some things, right? But I don't think that, I think that Loc's true intentions on some of these things weren't bad, right? But like, he'll be the first one to tell you, it is not easy to run a business. Like, I've been doing it for 30 years and there's daily challenges, right? The whole, I'm not super hip to what happened with the whole Kingmaker VIP package thing. And it just sucks that people didn't get their packages, but I don't believe that all the fault and blame should be pointed at Dustin for that one. And I'm just, what's fair is fair, and what honest is honest. I even, when I found out about that, at the time, I hit up Richter and I was just like, you guys got to make this right. You can't do this to the fan base. But I think it was a little bit out of their hands, and I'm going to strongly encourage that when Suburban Noize and Kottonmouth Kings puts out a record, everybody knows they always got their packages, and everybody always knows they got their stuff when I was involved with anything. But I think that there's a little bit of payback to those people that didn't get their packages that needs to come from Kottonmouth Kings to make up for that, and I'm happy to help facilitate it, and I'm also happy to not make as much money if on my portion of it, if that's what it takes to do right by the fan base, because I think that should be the overarching theme for everybody involved in this thing, and including the fan base, is let's do the right thing by each other, and let's correct the course of what this thing was, right? Because we had something special. We had something that a lot of labels and artists and people were extremely proud of or envious of, right? And it got demolished a little bit, and we owe it to ourselves and we owe it to everybody to kind of bring it back the way it used to be, if that makes any sense. I hope I'm not rambling, but I like that. There's one comment that says, Taxman needs to introduce everybody, and then the next comment is, have Big B bring up everyone. That's awesome. I appreciate that, Jason Powell. Any New York tours? There's a lot of questions about touring. I'm not managing Kottonmouth Kings. I'm just helping through the Suburban Noize side of things currently. But what I've been trying to get together is a package like how we used to have the tours back in the day, where we would put all the bands together. So I'm strongly suggesting putting some package together right now that would be something like Kottonmouth, Head PE, Mad Child, and really show some unity and send everybody out there. I think that's what the fans deserve. I think that's what they want, and I think that would be a good look for everybody. And the bands won't make as much money because all three of those acts are headlining acts. So I understand there's a financial sacrifice, but I think that we all owe it to all of you to come and bring the party back to where it was. And for me personally, I'll take zero money to help make that happen. I should do a podcast and give us a look back at the beginning of SRH, Sub Noize, and KMK. Thank you, I appreciate that. It seems like everybody in the world has a podcast these days. So I guess I might as well. But no, I've never really tried to be on the front line of or the voice of this whole thing. But as far as like, I'm very always pleased to talk about the beginning days of SRH, because you have to remember SRH started years and years and years and years and years before I even met the Kottonmouth Kings. So there was like a whole history of SRH that, because it was pre-internet, a lot of people that found SRH through the Kottonmouth Kings don't even know about, right? And then there's the SRH Kottonmouth Sub Noize years, which I'm just as much I'm just as proud of, and now it's where we take it to the future, right? The ending of that era, or what was a momentary ending, was shitty. So let's bring it back in a bigger way. But yeah, I'm always happy to talk about all those good times for sure. Is there any possibility of Daddy X coming back to Sub Noize in the future? Look, I highly doubt it, right? But you got to ask yourself this, right? I'm a big enough man to continue to say I would love to sit down with Brad and talk face to face, man to man, right? He has still never taken me up on that offer, but the door will always be open to him. If through that dialogue he had some sort of revelation or changed his way of being, or changed how he's acted over the course of all these years, like, would it be rad to have the Kottonmouth Kings back together in the position that they were in when, say, like, the Kottonmouth Kings self-titled or number 7 record was going, and like it was like the whole movement was just alive, and it was like we were just taking over town to town, and just everybody was having an amazing time, it was like, of course I would, right? Like, and I'm a big enough man to put my own personal differences to the side. But I'm not sure that everybody else is, right? And I just don't, I don't want to lie to you guys and say that I think that that's a possibility, because I can't even get the guy to sit down and confront the issues face to face with me after all of these years. After the thing's been over with, he still won't, you know what I mean? So, yeah, it's a little bit, it's sad, but that's the I don't want to bullshit you guys and say, oh yeah, I think he's coming back. I don't think that's going to happen. But if it did, I wouldn't be the one that got in the way of it. Let's just put it that way. We need a Corporate Avenger reunion. Yeah, Corporate Avenger was sick. That would be dope. Somebody asking for a shout out. What up, Jeffrey Cox? Shout out. Nick. Thanks, Nick. He said, you're a really good guy, Zinger, a true inspiration, the way you handle all the bullshit. I appreciate that. Thank you. Trust me, there were times where, you know, I was angry and pissed off, but, you know, sometimes in life you just gotta reflect on things and I always just try to do, take the high road on things, right? I mean, you got to remember, like, there was some fucking crazy things being said about me that were just not even close to being true. So when that happens to you, it's an eye-opening experience to find out who your friends are and who you are as a person, right? And so I look back at it now as like that whole thing gave me perspective and strength. Another person is a major stretch to say if Brad came back and apologies were to be given, would you accept him back, or is that bridge completely destroyed? No, like I said, if he had some life-changing views and wholeheartedly apologized and I would have no problem accepting the old ex that I knew back into the fold. But again, I don't want to pretend that's going to happen, because I don't think it's going to. More questions about Brad. Oh yeah, somebody just called out the Salmon House. That was like an old school club we did back in Mission Beach, and God, we had everybody from. We would have like hip hop groups play up in the upstairs, and then we'd have bands playing in the downstairs. God, there were some legendary nights there. Pennywise and Funk Junkies and Sublime and some of the best barroom brawls I've ever seen in my life. I wasn't involved in any of them. Oh, that's pretty funny. Somebody wrote Mugga, make the underground great again. I'm trying, man. I'm trying. Who's booking Cam K now? The Artery Foundation is booking him. Whatever happened to the band from Japan called Rise? Yeah, the kid Jesse, he was dope. He actually went on and had a solo hip-hop career and did really well. I haven't talked to him in a few years, but super cool guy. Japan was always one of my favorite places to go, and the people were always so cool, and they loved SRH and Suburban Noize, and they had such a strong connection to the lifestyle. It was just rad to see it all go down so far away, and everybody was just super cool. there's a lot of people thanking me. And I appreciate that very much. So for everybody who's saying thank you, and I appreciate it, but you guys are the one that should thank you. You guys stuck around through this whole time and still care about this movement and this lifestyle. So thank you. We appreciate it. And look, I've seen some of the names on here of people that you know, said they wanted to kill me and beat my ass 7 years ago because, you know, they were misinformed. And like I said, man, it's I understood at the time why people were you know, they were fed a bunch of bullshit, and I understand that they were mad at me, and it's rad to see that things have come full circle and people are back and people are ready to just put all that behind us. And again, I never faulted anybody for it. The SRH rings, we might make some more again. We made a really small batch just because, like, this ring in particular was like way back in the day. We only made them for like the tight crew of people. So if you have one of these, you know, you were kind of like part of like the inner circle. And then when we started bringing SRH back, I wanted to put a few up on the website so that the people that really were a part of the movement could have a chance of owning one too. You know what I mean? Even though that they might not be like in the inner circle of the operations, or maybe not, they don't live on the West Coast or whatever. I figured like at this time, like, people have dedicated their lives and stuck with us for so long that they should have an opportunity to have one too. So that's why I put a very limited run up, and you know, they sold out pretty quick, but I probably will put some up again. You know what I mean? I found a box of the old VHS tapes of the first SRH movie that we ever did, and you got to remember, again, this was like before the internet, right? So if you watch that old movie, I mean, we made it with like a $400 budget, and like I think we were like sneaking into like UCSD or SDSU's like editing department and editing some of the stuff there. We knew somebody that could get us in there, and then Herbie Fletcher, the legendary surfer from Astrodeck, he Joe Cremo, one of the surfers that surfed for us and surfed for Astrodeck, Herbie would give us access to the editing bay, and so we would go up there and edit together these surf skate like lifestyle movies, and it was kind of like a little bit surf skate, but it was like Jackass before there was Jackass, you know what I mean? And I found a bunch of them when I was going through storage, and I put you know, like, I don't even know, maybe 5 copies up for sale on SRH, and they sold out really quick. But you know, every once in a while I'm trying to leak little things like that out if I can. For me, they're huge parts of the history and legacy, and a lot of people don't even know that those existed. But for those of us that did, they're rad things to have. Another question about Lou Dog. I did the Lou Dog thing and the Bobby B thing twice already, so for those people that have been, probably don't want to hear that again.
You can rewatch it.
Oh yeah, you can rewatch it. That's right. Yeah, they'll this will be up, and you guys can watch it and see that. Yeah. I mean, I think we've hit all the major topics, you know what I mean? Again, I just appreciate everybody showing up and taking the time out of your days to ask these questions. It's been a wild ride, this whole lifestyle, and I'm proud to, you know, I'm proud that everybody's coming back together again, you know. it'll always be a part of my DNA, always be part of who I am. And you know, like I said, my only goal with all of this is to unite everybody. I want to put the bass behind us. Again, I'm not, you know, if you look back at the whole thing, right, like when I'm specifically the drama, like I only spoke a few times, you know what I mean? And it was like when things were literally so out of control, nonsense, that I needed to say something, but it was never my intention to like bring the fan base into it. And so, you know, doing this, I wanted to, like, I've never run from any question. I've never, you know, and I know that there's a lot of stuff that's been put out there and a lot of back and forth. But what I want to stop seeing is people like fighting online about what is true, right? Like, because the truth is, it's just, it's right there at your fingertips. You know what I mean? So it's like this whole thing was built on bringing people together, and watching people fight on the internet over it. I hope that doing stuff like this, and I think the fighting over the internet is definitely less and less every month, every day. So it's cool to see people come back together, and that's why I'm doing this. I don't want to sound like I'm rambling on or getting on some sort of high horse or anything. It's just, you know, I'm a kind of person that's just like everybody else on this thing, and I hope that everybody sees that. And my intentions are just to, you know, keep the good times rolling for as long as we could. Put out good music, good times, and have some fun. I guess I'll wrap it up that way. You.